Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for coming to watch. So we've got guys an update on a significant severe weather event that we have currently ongoing across portions of the Ohio Valley and eventually into the Northeast tomorrow. We're also tracking a tropical wave that is showing some signs of possible development over the next couple of days. I've got all the details coming right up. So thank you for joining me here on this Friday evening. We have lots of time in this videos. We're going to be going over all the latest details on today and tomorrow's sneaky tornado threat across the Ohio Valley and Northeast. I definitely do think that all hazards are going to be possible for these severe weather events. We could even see a severe weather outbreak if this event does uptrend over the next couple of hours here for tomorrow. But again, we're also talking about that tropical wave that does have a now high chance of development over the next couple of days. But as always, we're going to start out here by taking a look at your current radar. So, country's looking pretty messy for the most part. We'll start out here in the west where we do have a ton of monsoon moisture that is popping off. A lot of different thunderstorm cells, just a lot of activity out here across portions of Utah, Nevada, southern Oregon, Washington State, as well as down into portions of Colorado and Arizona. So again, we are talking about monsoon rainfall, and I definitely do think some spotty areas of lightning and thunder cannot be ruled out with the strongest of storms. So make sure you are getting yourselves indoors if you are becoming impacted by some of those stronger storms. But if we shift our focus to the east here, we can talk about a storm system that's currently bringing a lot of rain and thunderstorm activity to portions of southern Kansas, down into portions of northern Texas, and even into southern Missouri there. So this storm will continue to track off to the east there, which is associated with our cold front and our shortwave trough, which will be bringing our severe weather event to the northeast and the mid-Atlantic as we get into this into the early morning hours of tomorrow and into obviously tomorrow afternoon. But if you look closely, you can see across portions of the Ohio Valley, we do have actually some strong to severe thunderstorms popping up here. Again, across portions of Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and southern Ohio. These are expected to become strong to severe over the next couple of hours. Tornado threat is certainly there, as well as a damaging wind and hail threat. Alright, so we're going to start out here by taking a look at your National Weather Service alerts, watches, and warnings here. But basically what we've got going on is we do have quite a few counties out here in the Pacific Northwest currently under air quality alerts. We're talking about significant, very, very dense smoke that is coming down from Canada. Again, that is wildfire smoke. So please make sure that you are heeding caution out there, that you're limiting your times outdoors, and that you're just kind of going back indoors for some fresher air there. And especially if you have or know someone with a lung disease or lung problems in general, just make sure you're being obviously cautious of that. But as a result of the dry conditions, we do actually have some red flag warnings here across portions of southern Oregon and even into portions of northern California there. So please make sure that you are, again, not messing with anything flammable outdoors, as obviously this is going to produce pretty good conditions, pretty, favorable conditions for wildfire spread. And something that we have not really seen so much this year, at around this time of year at least, is that we do have some freeze warnings, believe it or not, going out for portions of western North Dakota. It is the beginning of September. It is September 5th, and we have freeze warnings in effect for portions of western North Dakota. I mean, can you believe that? That is just unbelievable for this early, just very, very early start here to our freeze and frost kind of season. But we also do have frost advisories, including portions of central North Dakota, northwestern South Dakota, and portions of northern Minnesota. So we are talking about potentially below freezing temperatures, especially in the early morning hours here across these areas. So very unseasonably cold air. We're talking about late fall, early winter time like conditions. So please make sure you're staying warm, that you're bundling up, because again, this is actually going to be a pretty impactful, you could even say cold blast here. I mean, we really do not see freeze warnings this early in the fall. I mean, it's September 5th. I mean, it's pretty wild to see that. But if you shift your attention here To the Ohio Valley, we also do have severe thunderstorm watches going out for portions of southern Kentucky into central Tennessee, northern Alabama, and Mississippi. So please make sure that you are, again, getting indoors and away from windows if you do get put under a severe thunderstorm warning today. Alright, so we're going to be moving on here. Take a look at your current Storm Protection Center outlook. We currently have a slight level 2 out of 5 risk for portions of the Ohio Valley. Again, this includes Nashville, Tennessee, Clarksville, Tennessee, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Jackson, Tennessee, and Bowling Green, Kentucky. Again, that is a level 2 out of 5 slight risk for severe weather in the yellow shade. And in the green shade, we have that marginal level 1 out of 5 risk for severe weather. Our tornado threat today, it is a 2%. It does include portions of West Virginia, southern Ohio, down into eastern Kentucky, and central Tennessee. So please make sure that you are, again, staying extra weather aware today, as this does bring a possibility of 1 or 2 isolated tornadoes today. So if you do get put under a tornado warning, obviously, please make sure you're getting yourselves indoors in a basement or an interior room. But you probably heard about it on the news or somewhere if you're hearing about it for the first time just from me. Again, it's not too late to prepare. Just make sure that you're staying weather aware and that you have you have multiple ways to receive warnings. But today's wind threat, it is a 15% non-hatch here in that yellow shade. That does include all of the slight risks. So if you are included in that 15% damage and wind threat, again, you're talking about a pretty elevated, potentially even significant threat of seeing damaging winds within 25 miles of a given location. And then we also do have that 5% there in the brown shade for surrounding areas. And then finally, your hail threat, it is a 5% across the general area here. Not really worrying about too big of a hail threat as for today. So we're going to be moving on here. Take a look at the latest HRRR for your hour-by-hour outlook. So this is as of 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, so just about an hour ago. You can see storms are just now popping up and developing here across portions of Tennessee and Kentucky. And you can see as we get into the evening hours, these storms really do explode in size. Again, a big cluster of storms down here into portions of northern Mississippi and Alabama, down into portions of southwestern Tennessee. Definitely watch out if you're in areas just south of Jackson or, south of Columbia, northwest of Florence. Again, you guys are going to be talking about the threat of seeing some significant strong to severe thunderstorms, packing the threat of damaging winds, large hail, and even a possible tornado if those do develop rotation. But it really does look like the strongest and most discrete storms are going to be up towards the north here. Already by 8 p.m., we are starting to see some development of some semi-discrete supercells across portions of far eastern Kentucky, western West Virginia, all the way down into the Cookeville area of Tennessee. And so all of these storms are going to pop up at once, which is actually happening a little bit earlier than scheduled. The HRRR is a little bit behind on convection, so really all of this is happening a couple hours before. But what the HRRR is showing is that as we get into tonight, the storms will continue to move off to the east, but will eventually congeal into a line to the point where we get kind of a broken up line, but cluster of strong to severe storms that goes right through the Nashville, Columbia, Chattanooga, and Cookeville area, as well as all the way up here through portions of northeastern Kentucky, where I really do think we could have a pretty loud night. We're talking about pockets of very heavy rain, torrential rain, small hail, up to pocket change size, and even some damaged wind gusts and an isolated tornado or two. That's really the main hazard that we're watching out for, but the storms continue to move off to the east, and again, we see that broken line shift into portions of North Carolina and Virginia, which we can actually zoom in on here. I guess it's not a great area to look at. Here we go. So again, the storms will continue to move off to the east and impact portions of West Virginia and Charleston. Looks like you guys are going to be up for a pretty loud night. Again, this looks like a very strong line of storms that likely will be strong to severe as we get into really the middle of the night or the late night hours of tonight, and eventually into tomorrow morning. But we look at our lightning flash density chart, which kind of shows us where the HRRR is showing the highest frequency and density of lightning. We look at the hour-by-hour outlook, and again, you can see as soon as the storms develop, we see many areas seeing very, very frequent lightning. A lot of cloud-to-ground lightning strikes are going to be possible, and so that's obviously going to be a big hazard for these storms. So if you happen to be, walking your dog at night, or just doing something outdoors, consider canceling it. Just keep watching the weather radar, because again, it looks like we could have a pretty loud and bright night, if that makes any sense here, across portions of eastern Kentucky, and central Tennessee. So once again, make sure that if you are planning on walking your dog or doing anything outside, that you pay attention to the weather forecast. And then finally, we take a look at your run-to-run hour maximum updraft helicity tracks, which basically just shows us where the HRRR is showing the best shot at seeing rotation within these thunderstorms. And really, as of the latest model runs, this tornado threat has downtrended a lot, but there still is a spotty area here or two of possible rotation within these storms, so I definitely would not rule out the chance of seeing a couple tornado-warned storms, maybe an isolated tornado at best, but it really doesn't look like it's going to be too much of a problem based off the latest data given. And we can even go into North Carolina here, and we really see the same story, a little bit of more kind of condensed areas of possible rotation tonight across portions of West Virginia, but again, you really don't see much as far as a tornado threat goes on the latest HRRR. Alright, so moving on here, we take a look at tomorrow's. This is our Day 2 outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. We once again have a slight risk for severe weather, now including portions of New England here. Going up all the way from southern Maine down through Rhode Island, New Hampshire, down into portions of northern Massachusetts, southern New England, all the way back into portions of Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey, down into the Hudson Valley, where we have, once again, a slight level 2 out of 5 risk for severe weather. As expected, it is obviously a hugely populated area of over 26 million people included, but you have New York City, Philadelphia, Newark, New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey, and Yonkers, New York, all included in this slight risk. But this is driven off by a 2% tornado threat, which I definitely do think, based on the latest model guidance, could uptrend. We'll have to keep an eye on this, and we'll obviously go into further detail later, but we have a 2% risk, including most of the slight risk area, as well as a large 15% damaging wind threat, and a 5% for surrounding areas. And then finally, your hail threat is a 5%, so slightly elevated, but nothing too crazy here for most areas. Alright, so we started here by taking a look at the afternoon run of the NAM 3K model. We get things started up here, so you can see storms are developing already by, again, like I said earlier, the early morning hours of tomorrow. You could see this cold front associated with this shortwave trough that's sweeping here across the region. This is going to be your forcing mechanism for storms to develop, and so that's why these storms are going to have a kickstart to develop, and eventually they will take care of the environment, which will get them well on their way. But you can see as we get into the late morning hours and eventually the early afternoon hours tomorrow, you can see that surface low finally catches up to the trough, and eventually we do see storms redevelop across the warm sector. And we're really getting into the afternoon and evening hours of tomorrow, and a full-blown line of very strong thunderstorms develops. And you can see more supercellular-looking storms up to the north there, so we could have a more semi-discrete mode. But down here into southern New England, a nasty line, a squall line of thunderstorms moving pretty much east and northeast. And it continues to push up to the east and actually moves a little bit farther to the south. And this ends up swallowing up pretty much all of southern New England and really the northeast here, the coastal New England. But you have a nasty squall line. This is likely going to pose a threat of 70 to potentially even up to 75 mile per hour damaging winds. Again, if this run of the NAM were to be accurate, but very strong line going right through the New York City metro area, and bam, I mean, you just get a full-on direct hit. We can switch things over here to southern New England for a closer look. But you could easily have embedded tornadoes within this line here, but again, this is a very significant damaging wind event shown here by the afternoon run of the NAM. Again, pretty impressive and strong line stretching all the way from portions of northern New England all the way down through, again, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and into the New York City metro area. So it really does look like if this were to play out, we would see a much higher damaging wind threat. And if this were to, let's say, get upgraded to an enhanced level 3 to 5 risk, that would likely be the driving factor, because again, something like this is very concerning, especially from one of the more high resolution and short range models. But eventually that line does fizzle out. Again, this is as we're getting into the evening hours, so just past around lunchtime here. across portions of New England. So again, if this were to happen, which it's just one run of the NAM, if this were to happen, something like this, we would see a much higher damaging wind threat, and maybe a little bit of a lower tornado threat, considering that storm mode doesn't really support discrete supercells, but just because of how high, how much shear we have in the environment, wind shear, as well as forcing, that could obviously lead to one or two embedded, isolated tornadoes there. But speaking of that tornado threat, we take a look at here your surface to 6 kilometer wind shear here. So basically, the higher amounts of wind shear, the stronger winds upper in the upper levels of the atmosphere, wind changing with height, that's going to allow for storms to rotate and eventually for mesocyclones, wall clouds, and eventually even tornadoes to develop. And you can see this little curvature feature here with the reds and even a hint of those yellows. This is what we call our shortwave trough, and this is our forcing mechanism, which is basically driven by a cold front. And this is bringing us a whole lot of wind shear right into the New England kind of area here. And this really does settle in as we get into the morning hours and afternoon hours of tomorrow with that surface low tracking across the region. And eventually you could see very strong amounts of shear of up to 50, maybe even 60 and 70 knots in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. Again, this is a very high sheared environment. So if this were to play out where we do see very strong kinematics, any prefrontal discrete supercell that develops will have the chance to spin and start rotating here, but this persists through the evening hours, and you can see even stronger areas of wind shear, which again is going to lead to a more tornadic primed environment. And that's why I really do think that there is a opportunity for us to see an upgrade to our tornado threat. Again, right now it's a pretty low threat, again at a 2%, but I really do think that we could see a sneaky 5% if we do see another uptrend. But again, with these cells moving into this high sheared environment, we could really be talking about multiple storms popping off rotation. And as a result, we can see here on the significant tornado parameter from the NAM, a very, very impressive signature here. Again, already across portions of the Hudson Valley, we do see very high significant tornado parameter signatures all the way throughout portions of coastal New England. And so this continues off to the east there, and if we can take a sounding, for example, here across, let's say, northeastern Connecticut. And if we look, again, this is a very, very significant environment. That is a PDS tornado, possible hazard type, which again is something that we only usually see during the biggest severe weather events. But that we'll start out with the storm slinky here, which is almost perfectly turned at 80 degrees. This is at 79 degrees, but a very, very impressive storm slinky. Again, this is showing us that we're going to have a persistent rotating updraft and mesocyclone with some of these storms. That's what the environment is going to be capable of doing, but that photograph is elongated, very curved there, very large photograph. Again, very, very nice and good shear profiles, which is going to be important for our storms to rotate. Our skew T showing very, very impressive dew points and thermodynamics here. You can see obviously that 70-degree dew point, very, very muggy and moist warm sector with that temperature just at about 78 degrees. You can see a very steep drop off here in our dew points. This is going to allow for a very large hail threat to develop. And so if we do see that happen, and obviously if our if we do see that hail threat increase there, obviously we're going to be talking about a much more significant day of severe weather. But that LCL height is very, very low, which basically shows us how low the cloud storm base is going to be. And then obviously you can see again just a very, very impressive signature there with those thermodynamics, over 3,000 surface-based CAPE, SRH, which stands for storm relative helicity, over 200 there in the first 3 kilometers of the atmosphere. So again, just what I'm trying to explain to you guys, which I know a lot of you probably don't really understand what I'm talking about. I'm basically just trying to explain how all of this sounding here, all of the different charts and graphs that you see, this is all supportive of an environment that's capable of, again, having storms produce tornadoes, and tornadoes that could be damaging. Alright, and so definitely something that we should not be sleeping on for tomorrow's event. And finally, we take a look here at the tropics. We're going to be moving off from severe weather here to the tropics. We take a look at our current satellite. We have two things going on. One, we do have a tropical wave located right out here, just off the coast of Africa, that is actually being monitored by the National Hurricane Center. So this is our current tropical wave that we're watching. We also do have this Saharan dust that's, in the path of the storm, which has been limiting its chances of early development. And then finally, we do have another area of tropical disturbance here. That's just a lot of showers and thunderstorm activity across portions of the Caribbean. So we're going to be talking about all of this in the next couple of minutes. But take a look here at the National Hurricane Center forecast. You can see they do have this tropical wave marked as Invest 91L, which does have now a high 70% chance of development throughout the next 7 days. What they're saying is that shower and thunderstorm activity is currently limited and disorganized in association with a tropical wave over the central tropical Atlantic. Although upper level winds are generally favorable for development, environmental dry air is likely to limit development over the next couple of days. However, a tropical depression could still form early next week as the system moves westward at around 10 miles per hour across central tropical Atlantic. This system is likely to be near the Lesser Antilles by the middle to later portion of this week, and interest there should monitor its progress. So basically what they're saying is that storm development earlier on will be limited, as it's going to take a southern track into more unfavorable atmospheric conditions, but it definitely does look like we could see a tropical depression form around sometime early next week, and could definitely bring some rain and wind to the Antilles. But speaking of rain and wind, we look at now the GFS. We'll be comparing the GFS to the European model, and if you look at the latest 18Z GFS, you can see the storm again right here at around 1,012 millibars. Very, very weak storm, but it's basically just this green blob of rain and showers and thunderstorms. It does take that southern track pretty much right into these Lesser Antilles, and just brings a lot of rain and wind to that area, and eventually kind of fizzles out as it gets into the Gulf, and that's pretty much it. And if you compare this to a couple days ago, you'll see a very, very drastic change. You can see the storm strengthens much earlier on. Again, at this point, the GFS has about 1,012 millibar low. Couple runs back, it's 977 millibars, and it's taking a northern track. And this is when we got a little bit concerned, because we were like, okay, that's a pretty significant signal of a major hurricane developing. So a lot of people on the internet said, okay, well, I'm sure this is going to get a lot of headlines, and they posted about it. And they said that a major hurricane is going to develop in the Atlantic and could target the United States. Obviously, that got the attention of a lot of people who don't understand and don't know about these people that overhype forecasts too early. And this is a prime example as to why we should never, ever be hyping up a forecast for anything, even, if we have the most rock-solid signal between all models. We should never be hyping things up too early, because the GFS now shows a completely different scenario happening, where we just get a flat-out tropical depression that barely does anything and doesn't even manage to get past the Lesser Antilles. It doesn't pose any threat to land other than bringing some showers and thunderstorms to those areas. Alright, so that's the latest GFS. Big changes there. What about the European model? Well, the European also does have this thing taking that southern track, again, only getting down to about 1,012 millibars, very similar to the GFS, and it takes it just north of the Lesser Antilles there. It does actually look a little bit more organized here. Not even seeing a low pressure center though with this, just a lot of showers and thunderstorm activity, maybe some gusty winds. And it goes just north of the Antilles, kind of stalls out, and eventually just fizzles out there across the northern Atlantic. Now, what about a couple runs back? Look at the 18Z, and that was from a couple days ago. Well, completely different story, and I guess a 12Z run would be a little bit better. That takes a much more northern track, and it does get much stronger earlier on, and eventually strengthens to a major hurricane out there in the northern Atlantic and completely impacts Bermuda. Alright, so very, very different scenarios here on the runs just a few runs back, and today's runs here from both the European and the GFS operational. Now we look at the GFS, or the Europeans ensemble here. So this is showing us basically where all of the members that make up the European ensemble, where they show the storm going on our spaghetti plots. And you could see a lot of them take this farther south and almost completely fizzle out. You can see a lot of members do show the storm developing, but you can see not any of them really make it past the Lesser Antilles if they take that southern option. So really what the European ensemble is going for is if this storm's going to take that southern track, it's going to be either going through the Lesser Antilles and doing nothing, or getting past there. The rest of the members do take that curve north away from the Antilles and do strengthen the storm into major hurricanes here. Again, that one leading member showing a 948 millibar low. That's also a definite possibility, considering that we saw that trend just a couple days ago. But again, really much lower kind of agreement here in the whole consensus there between all of the members here that make up the European ensemble with this storm developing. Now look at the GFS, and the GFS, completely different story. The GFS ensemble has literally like half of its members, maybe even less, showing the storm developing at all, and the only ones that do really just bring this towards the Lesser Antilles as a very weak system, and very few get this into the Southwest Atlantic. So it really does look like this is either going to go into the Antilles and just bring some very, very light impacts, or not really do much at all. Alright, so that's all I got for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please stay safe out there. If you are in New England or the Ohio Valley with that sneaky tornado threat, make sure you are hitting that like and subscribe button down below. Donations to my PayPal are extremely appreciated, but are not required. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.